Welcome to Riders Block. I'm your host, Journal staff writer Sean Reider. This show is presented to you by New Mexico Shoes. We're very thankful to have them as our sponsor. If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us continue to bring more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website at abqjournal.com, as well as on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. See the show notes for a discount on a digital subscription if you're interested. And thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading local news source. I'm your host, Journal staff writer Sean Reider. Before we get into things, I'd like to thank our sponsor, New Mexico Shoes. They've been an excellent partner for us and the show. With that being said, we have a conversation with fellow Journal staff writer Geoff Grammer on deck today. We kind of dove into some of the things we were thinking about after New Mexico's 49-45 loss to Wyoming, and some of the things we're thinking about heading into this Friday's game with San Diego State on deck. You can watch that game at 7:30 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. With that being said, enjoy the conversation. Tired of shoes that don't quite fit right? New Mexico Shoes has a solution. Introducing our custom insoles and arch supports made just for you and ready the same day right here in Albuquerque. Perfectly tailored to your feet, enjoy the comfort and support you need. And while you're here, explore a huge selection of top brands. From casual to athletic, we've got the perfect pair waiting for you. Visit newmexicoshoes.com for hours and location details.
Football. We got some Lobo football this week. Mathematically, still in it for a bowl.
Not eliminated, 3-6.
3-6. And where are we at with the San Diego State game? I guess let me start with the one thing that came up late last week. I don't think it's an issue, but let me make sure. Anything going on with the field? Is anything going to change field conditions wise? Snapdragon Stadium, for those that don't know, had some field concerns that moved a professional women's soccer game out of the stadium. So anything going on with the stadium?
Yeah, if it looks like to everybody watching at home that I've been on the phone a little bit too much, I have been texting some people about that throughout the course of the show right now. I don't have a firm and fast update right now. That's something that I'll be able to put out later today and all that too. From my impression, it does not look like the game is going to get moved because the field is unsafe and all that. San Diego State's ground crew, from what the last update that I had, they believe that the field is safe and all that. I will say one interesting thing. I'm going to talk to a couple guys about it today too. Kirk Kenny, the San Diego Union Tribune, great beat writer out there. Kirk put out a story talking about the kind of the field and that situation at this point. And let me pull it up on my phone too, because I took a screenshot of it in particular. I did think it was interesting how some of the San Diego State players, not really Sean Lewis, the head coach, were kind of talking about it. I'll quote this. San Diego State senior cornerback Bryce Phillips said getting traction was an issue on defense against Washington State. So it was an issue for San Diego State players and all that too, and Washington State. But Phillips went on to say it has to be an advantage for us at this point. We know what we're going into. We know what we have to do. Planting off one foot, you know it's going to be slippery, so you've got to plant off the correct foot. As an offense, New Mexico's not going to be ready for it. That was something that I wasn't really thinking of yesterday when we spoke with head coach Bronco Mendenhall and all that. Now I'm gonna ask a few more questions, and I do think, and look, this is not me criticizing Phillips, and this is not really me criticizing Sean Lewis. I thought Lewis's comments for the most part were pretty good. Just kind of look, we're going to go out there and play. It's very silly. Okay, so if it's not safe and all that, even then, it's very silly to be like, hey, our messed up field is a competitive advantage. I don't know if that's exactly. Yeah,
I don't think you want to say that. It's not like the Isotopes for years until 2 years ago had a hill in the outfield, right?
Yes.
They called it the Tope Slope, the Glen Allen Hill, things I used to call it through the years, their manager and stuff like that. And it was a uniqueness that gave them maybe a home field advantage that their center fielder liked, and everyone enjoyed seeing the opposing team play on it for the first time. When you're talking unsafe field conditions in general, like the whole field, then maybe you don't brag about it. You know, maybe don't boast about how, that's to our advantage.
And I'm not a turf scientist or anything of that nature and all that too. Like we've talked about a little bit on the show too, where it is kind of a situation where they were trying to, I believe, fill in some certain parts of the turf that was a little rough with sand and all that. So you're just kind of mucking about in this sand turf mixture. And that's There's nothing that has come out to me, and there's no updates that I've had from anybody that are saying that it's unsafe at this point. And all that. Obviously, the NWSL, they made their decision and all that too. The team, I should say. I believe it was a team, not the league.
It was a team.
I believe it was a team, not the league. So that's bad attribution on my part. But even then, it's just kind of it's an odd. I mean, I guess credit to players for making the best of a not ideal situation, but it's a weird approach, right? And I don't know. That's something certainly to think about in getting into this game, and something that I'll be writing about this week, probably in more stories than one. But yeah, that's kind of my read there.
I'm curious. Yesterday, again, we kind of shifted gears a little bit yesterday from our usual 2 p.m.
We've been shifting a lot of gears.
Of shifting of gears.
So many.
So no 2 p.m. Monday afternoon yesterday, partly because the weekly noon Monday press conference from Bronco Mendenhall was pushed back a little bit. And then between that and the game, we just decided to put it to today, and we could talk about Lobo basketball and football together. Tell us what the takeaway from Broncos press conference yesterday was. I imagine there's still got to be some disappointment from how they lost and the loss on Saturday to Wyoming. But we've talked about before, Bronco has been even keel all season long. I'm guessing he was again yesterday, but you tell us, you were there. What was the takeaway from Broncos press conference yesterday?
So yeah, usually we do the press conference at noon on Mondays, and we don't go to practice that day. We go to the little bit of practice, the 30 minutes we get, that is on a Tuesday, and then we talk to players that day, and that's kind of that. So we had it all roped in yesterday. We saw practice and then had to leave and then come back and talk to Bronco and then some other players and all that as well. We get whoever's starting at quarterback that week, and this year it's all been Devin Dampier, so that's the day you talked to him too. That was all roped into Monday. And I was really curious. It hadn't, response for this team has never been something that I think has been necessary to question, honestly. Even when they've lost, I think they've come out and they've done good things in games and all that, and there's been some issues for sure, right? They're 3-6 team. But at the same time, I don't think response has been a major question. That's not anything that Bronco Mendenhall has ever come out and said, like, yeah, we're just not responding. Yeah. I was curious to kind of see us at practice and all that. And it did seem like a pretty energetic, spirited practice. Not quite like a rallying cry or anything like that. But at the same time, I think there is a legitimate recognition that this team, their backs are against the wall right now. I mean, they have to win out. The odds are not great. And it's not going to be easy. San Diego State on this Friday, Washington State at home. There's now a game time for that, by the way. It's 7:30 p.m. kick in Albuquerque. And then
7:30 p.m. kick. Yuck. Anyway,
we'll make the most of it. And then a trip to the islands to play Hawaii. And Hawaii huge win over Fresno State. Pretty impressive to get that done there too. But at the same time, Bronco Mendenhall kind of talked a little bit about that too. And I wrote about this in my post-game kind of follow-up, the notebook I did, where the Wyoming loss really did shift. And I think Bronco kind of acknowledged that in his post-game, his post-game press conference and all that. It did kind of shift the focus, I think, for a lot of fans and a lot of people and some media from the micro, the week to week. Okay, like this is the game and they got to win this and yada, yada, yada to stay in the conversation. Now it's right back to kind of the macro of developing the program and kind of, taking these foundational steps, even if it's, whether it's winning games or fixing the defense or just figuring out how to field onside kicks and all that too, all that stuff. And he did talk a little bit about that in a way that I thought was interesting too, to where, he said like the similar tone of the consistency of, look, I mean, yeah, these are all foundational experiences, but he did admit, he said, I promised the players that I need to be, that I need to be consistent on a week in, week out, day-to-day basis and all that too. But he's like, but they've seen every emotion from me. And like, clearly he's like, I was hurt by the loss too. Like that bummed me out. And I thought that was interesting from him too. In terms of other developments of importance from practice yesterday and kind of media press conference, Luke Wysong was a full go at practice. He warmed up before the Wyoming game. And then just got called out after that. Bronco Mendenhall, after the post-game press conference, said he just wasn't quite there with the kind of lower body injury that he's been dealing with, that he suffered in the Colorado State game on the first drive. But he was full go at practice yesterday. Looked good to me. I mean, last week there was a very noticeable limp. I didn't really see much of one yesterday. The bit of practice that we saw. And Nikari Rogers was also back. I did not talk to Nikari. I talked to Luke a little bit yesterday. I'm kind of curious how that's gonna, not exactly how that's all gonna work, but I am curious what that run game will end up looking like this week too. Because it was sensational with Sanders and Devin last week. Obviously, two career performances,
historic.
Yeah, I mean, like it feels like I keep like underselling it to a certain degree.
200-yard games in the loss.
Yeah, and the presser with Bronco got cut short, but that was the question I wanted to ask. Well, have you ever had two 200-yard rushers in a single game before? So those are the kind of notables there. In terms of Derek Moore, also backup safety. He was back out of turquoise, which the turquoise jersey means injured, non-contact, limited, and usually we don't get any details about that throughout the course of the week or anything like that. Kyler Drake, he was down for a little bit in the Wyoming game. I don't remember exactly what play it was, or I believe it was second half. He was in turquoise during practice as well, too. So curious there. I thought the defensive line did some good things in the second half against Wyoming, but at the same time, Harrison Whaley, he got his due, whether it was the first half or the second half. And I know UNM only let up a touchdown in the second half too, but they certainly found ways to get things going in the run game as well too. And that's something they're going to have to deal with this week too. San Diego State's got a really talented back in Marquez Cooper, really durable. He's been pretty consistent on a week-to-week basis from what I've seen. And this is not an easy offense to play against either. This is a Sean Lewis function, and they do a lot to make it up for tougher defenses.
Well, they're starting to get it going a little bit under Sean Lewis. They've shown at times they could be pretty good, right? San Diego State. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised by let me ask you this. Are you surprised by the line? It's 3 points. It's San Diego State -3.
No.
3 is basically calling this an even game.
Yeah. And they're just set. Yeah, exactly.
You think these are
Snapdragon.
Yeah. You think these are two equal teams?
Did they factor in the field like at all? Do you think
right? It's a home field advantage, right?
Literally a home field advantage. We know how to play on this field.
Do you think these are two even teams right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think that San Diego State's defense overall has been better than UNM's. It's been more consistent than UNM's. I like their DBs a good deal. They have a guy, Trey White, 47. He is no longer the national leader in sacks. He has 11.5. He's behind a guy from Virginia Tech, and I'm blanking. Been really, really super productive off the edge there. We're going to write about him a little bit this week. I asked Bronco about him yesterday. And again, we say like every single one of these shows, like Bronco does not really talk a whole lot about the other team or other players in the way that other coaches do. But what he kind of said was like, look, at this level, there's so many similar players and so many similar skill sets. And what sets you apart is production. And the production is definitely setting them apart. Obviously, when you're second nationally in sacks, it's pretty ridiculous. So he's been good too. In terms of going back to the point of are these two even teams, I do think UNM's offense has certainly been more explosive.
Sure.
And I think it's more multifaceted. And I think there's things that Devin Dampier obviously does that makes life kind of hell for opposing defenses and all that too. You just can't get a full hold on them in the way that you can with other dual threat quarterbacks. And that being said, though, it hasn't been perfect for this offense and all that too. And like, this is an offense that they're branding it right now as Aztec fast, all caps fast, similar to what they did at Kent State. And then a little bit, not super similar. So I'll say similar to what they did at Colorado last year when Sean Lewis was the OC before he got demoted mid-season.
Demoted, moved, fired. Who knows?
Deion said I can't even talk. Deion said we got to get Pat Shurmur in here, and Pat. It's been good this year anyway.
Yeah, they're doing worked,
fine. But
I thought they were doing fine anyway, though. Like I didn't think that was the problem.
I thought they were doing all right. Yeah. It's just tough. There's so many options on every single play. For the quarterback to work with and the structure. Bronco was talking a little bit about it yesterday too. It's like when you when you condense in the run game, then the passing windows open right back up, and it's just kind of a pain to deal with. They have ran it more than they've thrown it this year, and I think that's a product of having Cooper and being able to lean on him a little bit more, and a product of Danny O'Neal, true freshman quarterback. I think he's from Indianapolis, won the job. I don't know if he's in the upper tier of Mountain West quarterbacks right now, in a very interesting very interesting amalgamation of Mountain West quarterbacks right now.
I'll ask you. We're about to follow up on that.
But I do think he's been good. I think he's 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. There's a good ball. That's for sure too. So yeah. That's kind of where I'm at.
All right, you set it up. Let me ask the weekly. I'm all in on
golly.
Did you hear what I just called him?
Oh my god,
Donovan Dent. I am all in on Devin Dampier.
Pause. I was thinking about this last night. It is just criminal that there has not been, and I mentioned on other shows, a Donovan Dent and Devin Dampier like photo shoot through UNL
or like a social media whatever.
Why is there not like a poster at this point? Like I look at like Anthony Edwards, Justin Jefferson, they're kind of remaking the Randy Moss and oh my gosh, Kevin Garnett kind of photo shoots too. Why has it not happened yet? Anyways.
It's a lost opportunity so far.
Missed opportunity.
UNM. All right. I'm pulling up the stats here while I ask this because I've said it before. And I'll say it again. I think Devin Dampier is the best quarterback in the Mountain West. Now, he has some turnovers. He is not leading his team to a winning record yet at this point.
Leading his team to success for sure.
Quarterbacks get judged on a lot, and wins are usually one of them.
What is your take on this? We've done it for years now. Are wins a quarterback stat?
I don't want to say no. Because I don't think...
And I think it's different from... I do think it's different from pro to college. I do think it's legitimately different.
I don't want to say no entirely, but they get way too much credit for him. I think they're way... Sometimes quarterbacks give you a chance to win even when your team is bad. Sometimes quarterback... I will say this. A great team with
Sometimes quarterbacks give you no chance to win.
Well, a great team with no quarterback at all, like a really bad minus quarterback... can ruin an entire team. A really great quarterback probably can't elevate a really bad every other position. I don't think Tom Brady, and I'm a Joe Montana guy. I don't think Joe Montana or Tom Brady would elevate a team of nobodies, complete nobodies. They have to have some talent around them to win. But I do think a bad quarterback can really ruin it for a really good team. So what does that mean? Then does wins count for quarterbacks? I think it has to count a little bit, but I think we overdo it. I say all that to ask you, what's your weekly answer to my take that I think Devin Dampier is the best quarterback in the Mountain West? I know you're really all in on playing on the blue on Maddox Madsen, and are you not thinking he's the best now?
This is weird, right? Like this is a weird year for it. Usually there is kind of like I thought Cordero was the best quarterback in the league last year. Okay. I loved Cordero. I thought he was a phenomenal player, and what they did at San Jose State was pretty impressive. Mikey Keene was right in that conversation too, where there's kind of these two clear-cut guys and all that. And like when Taylor Green, the Boise State 2 quarterback situation last year, golly, I mean, just never again, please. I don't want to ever see that ever happen ever again. But I thought when Taylor Green was really kind of ripping and rolling and running there, I thought he was certainly in that class too. This year is weird. Mikey Keene has not played up to expectations, and I do think part of that is just some of the I don't want to say the structure, but kind of the play calling and not having Tedford around. It just hasn't been a great offense in a lot of respects. It just hasn't been super effective. I don't know. My answers in terms of Devin is the same as it was on Saturday, right? I think he's the most dynamic quarterback in the league. I don't think he's the best quarterback in the league, and I do think it is in large part because of the turnovers. This is 7 turnovers in 3 games, and some have counted for more than others, right? I mean, that second pick against Utah State, that pick was just kind of a wash, basically, right? Like time had already expired. I mean, they got Brock Lane down. I mean, it's just whatever. Okay, so it's going to show up on the stat sheet, and maybe it wasn't the best of decisions, but it was a true kind of desperate, heave down the field and all that. But then you have some that really matter. I mean, the 29-yard pick six to Rook Brown for the Wyoming game that brought him right back into it. And it's clear that Devin, we talked to him yesterday, is frustrated with it at this point.
Yeah.
He's not coming out and saying I'm frustrated with it, but I mean, he said like turnovers are a huge thing, and I have to be better in that regard because it is hurting us. And it is just the fact, I mean, you're a Joe Montana guy. You can maybe say the mark of a truly great quarterback if you put aside kind of the talent and the pieces around you in some respects. It just comes down to executing in critical moments.
And decision making, moving chains, and all that.
Exactly.
But it comes at the critical moments.
And I also, we did talk about it on Saturday, and I kind of dodged around some of the questions too, in terms of the pick six and the play structure and all that too. I did ask Devin yesterday, like, what was that play? I mean, like, because I didn't think there was an option on that, but. I don't know. I don't know this offense in and out. It was a straight passing play.
Okay.
He said it was a miscommunication on an option route to wide receiver Ryan Davis. So
miscommunication. I will say this: earlier in the year,
is it the worst? Like, do I think should they have probably been running it at that point? Maybe because he threw the pick with 6 minutes left?
Yeah, probably around there.
Something. I think it. I don't remember exactly.
Well,
but.
What I was going to say is I remember earlier in the year thinking, okay, he's not forcing anything. He's not hurting himself. I mean, just last night I heard a radio interview or on the radio driving home from the pit, actually, or to the pit. Heard a Baker Mayfield interview talking about like their philosophy is, end every drive with a kick. And obviously that doesn't mean every drive you end with a PAT after a touchdown. Sometimes it's just end it with a punt, and that's fine. What you don't want to do is the turnovers.
You want to get the punts.
Yes.
That's something Devin said yesterday too. We want to get the punts.
Yes.
Like,
you don't want to on third and long. You don't want on third and long to force it and maybe turn it over.
Yeah.
And early in the year, I did not think that Devin was doing any of that. I'm starting to think now that maybe, especially in the Colorado State game after Luke Weisong got hurt, I felt he was pressing for the first time. Maybe not the first time. Maybe he's shown it at other times. But I thought he pressed more in that Colorado State game than I remember. I think he pressed a little bit in the Wyoming game, although it's hard to get too nitpicky at that Wyoming game when he
breaks an 85-yard touchdown that puts him up 10, and it's like, okay, they're going to win this game somehow. Well, not even somehow. It's not like they were ever truly out of it. But, like, at the same time, it's like, wow, like that's what having a player that caliber, that skill set can do for you. And then you have that pick six, and that kind of changes the tone a little bit too. So,
Sean, I got a question for you here. I'm looking at Mountain West stats. Number 1 in the league in, let's go with total offense first.
He is, yep.
He is number 1 in the league. There are 2 players in the Mountain West averaging over 300 yards of total offense per game. Number 1 is UNM's Devin Dampier, 332 yards per game. The other one averaging more than 300 yards is? Do you know?
Nobody else is, I think, right?
There's one now.
Is there somebody?
There's one at 308.
308. It wouldn't be UNLV. It wouldn't be Hodge. Would it be
it surprised me, but
not Shager. Who is it?
Shager's third, and he's at 267, so he's a good 33 yards away from being 300. Utah State's Spencer Petras.
Man.
Petras.
Iowa legend.
308.
Big Ten born and bred. Actually, he was born in like San Francisco,
and he has a whopping 28 rushing yards on the year. So his is all passing. He's only played 6 games. Devin has 745 rushing yards, 2,243 passing yards. So this is what surprised me, though. So I knew Devin was going to be up there in total offense. Who, Sean, is leading the Mountain West, or where does Devin rank in the Mountain West in passing yards per game?
Well, he's got to be top 3.
He is top 3.
He's got to be top 3, right?
Yep.
I'll go Well, if Petrus is like if he's second in total offense, he's got to be first overall passing. Right?
He is. He's at 304 yards per game.
I would go, man.
I will say this: two, 3, and 4, all within 7 yards of each other.
The thing that's weird to me in terms of thinking about if Devin's 2 or 3 is just like he's had a couple productive passing games, but not like super gaudy numbers or whatever, right? Like I want to say he had like pretty tame. Really, I think like in wins, he hasn't had like crazy aggressive passing numbers and all that. In losses, like I mean, he passed for like 272 against Colorado State. I'm gonna go
2, 3, and 4 within 7 yards of each other.
2 Keen, Dampier 3.
Flip them. 2's Dampier,
okay.
Keen's 3,
okay,
and then Shager's 4.
Okay.
Then a little drop off to your guy Maddox Madsen, down at 223 per game.
My guy, who's 5?
Maddox Madsen's 5.
Who's 6? Where's Emmett Brown?
He's 6, and he's down at 202 yards passing per game. So that's about 47 yards off of what Devin at number 2 is at 249. So anyway, I was a little surprised though to see Devin's passing numbers in a Mountain West conference that usually has 3 or 4 kind of, spread them out quarterbacks that are throwing for 300 yards every week. It seems like not just Hawaii, but maybe a Utah State. You see the usual suspects. Utah State's up there this year too. Anyway, just to see a UNM quarterback up there in the passing yards and the rushing yards is pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, and I think
he's number 5, by the way, in rushing in the conference overall.
Yeah, to kind of like wrap it, like I do think he truly I can't stress enough. I think he's the most dynamic quarterback in the league. He's doing a lot of things that other quarterbacks just literally cannot. Until the turnovers become less of an issue and they become less prolific in some ways. Wyoming was a nice step. I mean, it was a step in the right direction until that pick 6.
Yeah.
And that was just the one play you couldn't have. And I don't know until it doesn't. And I know you can. I mean, maybe I'm being unfair because it was a miscommunication and all that too. And it was a pretty good defensive play, but at the same time, it did happen and it did swing the game. And in a way that I don't think you can totally understate. So I don't know who the best quarterback is in the Mountain West. I mean, I do. You're saying Devin.
I'm still going with Devin. I don't know. I mean, in fairness, I wouldn't even.
I don't think it's like Devin's down like 4. I think it's like 2. I think it's just one other person above.
Yeah, I don't know the other quarterbacks all that well. So, I just think Devin's what I want in a quarterback. And it'll be interesting to see what in the offseason as everyone wants to know. What's he going to do? Who knows what he's going to do? I will say his size and what he's doing this year is pretty unique. Not all offenses do this. He's got to find the right place if he goes somewhere else. Otherwise, take what they pay you here and understand that what they're doing here is fitting you specifically.
And that's something that he talked about a little bit yesterday too. It's like he said, like he straight up said, like, I feel like I'm playing some of the best ball in my life right now. He said like career, but like,
yeah.
I mean, I want to say probably his life.
Yeah.
And he understands that the offense is catered to him in a lot of respects and all that, because I remember talking with offensive coordinator Jason Beck when he got hired, and it was a thing of, all right, well, we're going to figure out what we have in the offensive line first. We got to see that. And then, okay, well, what do we have at quarterback? And he said, like, during spring practice, he's like, I knew, like, we had something good. But, like, even then at spring practice, I was like, wow, like, this guy's pretty good. So, yeah, it's – I don't know. And I'll stress this, too. Like, I mean, like, I think San Diego State is rightfully the favorite, field aside or not.
Right.
But like, Broncos talked about it. I've written about it in certain degrees and all that. I've quoted people on it. When you have a quarterback, you have a chance, and they certainly have a quarterback right now. Now, there's still other things they got to figure out. And as this shifts in some ways to, I think they're still slightly on the micro in terms of like game-to-game results and all that too. But it does feel like there is a bit of waning interest on the outside in some ways too, as opposed to a couple weeks ago. And obviously, like, 2 straight losses where you're kind of backs against the wall for a bowl game compared to 3 straight wins. Yeah, it's going to be different, obviously. But I don't know. I do think there's a lot of things we're following in the macro and the development aspects too. And the development of Devin Dampier further, I think, is certainly worth watching for.
Going to put a bow on football here in a second, but I am looking at the stats, and I want to ask you one more stat question. This is Mountain West stats that I'm looking at. Receiving yards, number 5 in the league, even though he missed basically 2 games now.
Basically 2 games.
Luke Weissong is number 5 in the league with 663 yards.
And he 50 receptions is what? Because Nash is number 1. Nash has got to have like.
Weissong's 4 at 50 receptions now. He got passed by Ricky White and now has 51. Jalen Royals for Utah State has 55, and Nick Nash is at 80.
Royals' season is over. It took White a little bit. I won't say it took White a little bit to get your rhythm. It
took UNLV a little bit.
It took UNLV a little bit
to find White.
To get that going.
But here's my question.
And Nick Nash.
Luke Weissong, number 5, missed 2 games, obviously, but number 5 in receiving yards at 663 yards.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you know the other Lobo stats. Where does Ryan Davis rank in the Mountain West in receiving yards?
Well, he's got to have.
It surprised me. I'm telling you. I know he's been playing good.
I don't know his numbers off the top of my head. He's got a lot of balls. I mean, a lot of catches. Excuse me. That didn't. He's got a lot of catches. He's catching a lot of balls. Sorry, Ryan, but we'll cut that. I don't know, dude. He's got to be at what? He's between 450 and 525.
Well, I'll tell you this. He ranks in the top 10 in receptions now at 41.
Yeah.
He's at number 10. For Ryan Davis, who came into this year, you think Luke Weissong, you think Caleb Medford. I don't know. Maybe you think Ryan Davis third. Maybe I don't know who you thought was the third receiver, but you think Caleb Medford and Luke Weissong are going to be the top 2 receivers probably coming into the year?
Yeah, and there was certainly an element too of, well, guys are talking about Trujillo like this too, and that hasn't. And frankly, for Medford, too, it hasn't quite panned out statistically for either of them.
The fact that Ryan Davis is top 10 in receiving yards and receptions.
What is his receiving yards?
Receiving yards, this is what surprised me, man. He is number 8 in the league right now with 587 receiving yards.
587, golly. I got to give him more credit.
He is less than 100 yards away from Luke Weissong.
Yeah.
Now, he's played 1 more game, really 2 more because Luke went out on the first drive of another game. But
big games against Auburn and big games against
he's averaging
Colorado State, obviously.
Averaging 65 receiving yards a game in college football, that's a good number. Especially when you're sharing it with the number 5 guy in the league at 82 yards and Luke Weissong. So I was surprised to see that. So good for Ryan.
What gripping content this is. Like, okay, how many catches does he have?
And now,
how many receiving yards
does he have?
We do this for 6 hours.
How many fingers am I holding up?
How many tackles does Gabe Lopez have?
We thank you for watching. We are testing out, just so you guys know, as we kind of put a bow on this show, testing out some new equipment here that I may got Sean over there on it. We got all these cords over here, lots of cords hooked up to my computer here. We got a little webcam that shows Sean, but also can show you the Journal newsroom right now. A lot of election day reporting going on out there. That's why there's not a whole lot of people out there right now, frankly. But we're just kind of testing out some equipment right now. And I think what we're going to be doing with this is I'm going to start taking this to maybe some home games at first just to make sure it works, and do a little live in-pit, in-arena live shows before basketball games and get a Lobo basketball assistant if possible. They've said they would be open to that, so maybe get an assistant before every game, give us a little scouting report, talk to maybe an opposing reporter if they are there, whoever else is around.
An opposing reporter.
Yeah.